Welcome back, traders, to my market outlook on S&P and Nasdaq futures for the week of September 15th. Now going forward, I'm changing these weekly outlook videos to also include daily outlooks throughout the week, because sometimes in the middle of the week, the market will go against the view I had at the beginning of the week and my opinion changes. So when that happens, I want to put out a video looking at the daily time frame and maybe the 4-hour time frame to give you guys my new opinion. I can't guarantee it every day, but I'll try my best to put out a video on the days after the market had made a critical change. I'm aiming to have these videos uploaded by 7 a.m., so keep an eye out for these pre-market. Now I'm still going to have weekly outlooks for the upcoming week, but to help me out with time management, I'm cutting out the dollar index and only going to focus on the S&P and Nasdaq futures. Now if the dollar index is really important to you and you really want me to still look at it, let me know in the comments. If there's a lot of you who still want that, then maybe I will still include it, but just on the weekly outlook over the weekend. Okay, I'm done with the announcements for the channel. Let's go ahead and get started with this week's outlook, starting with S&P on the weekly chart. So here we have S&P on the weekly, but let me start by correcting myself. Last week I mentioned contract expiration dates. Contracts are actually expiring this week, Friday, September 20th. You can look it up yourself, but sorry for my confusion last week. I hope it didn't mess anyone's trading up because of that. Now looking at the chart, I was looking for price to come down to half of this wick and then looking for these lows. But we had a really strong rally up out of this fair value gap, so my attention turns back to these relative highs and the all-time high over here. Going down to the daily, I see support at this fair value gap. Price bounced off of it twice and is rallying towards these relative highs. It created two fair value gaps, but I like to see support off of the higher one since there's an inverted fair value gap to the left. It could still reach down to the lower fair value gap, but if it does, I don't want to see it close completely. I would like to see price to go for the liquidity above these highs. If that should happen and I was in long, I would take off most of my position and then maybe leave a runner to see if we can go above the all-time highs. Going to Nasdaq on the weekly, we had a big rally last week, but we did not close above this fair value gap just yet. I do have consequent encroachment drawn out. This could be an important price level for price to bounce off of because it does look like we will be heading for this swing high and the weekly SIBI right above it. Going down to the daily, I'm looking to target this weekly fair value gap above this swing high, specifically half of this gap, because that will also tap into a daily fair value gap. But before we get there, there's also this flat area with a lot of liquidity. If I was long here, I would definitely want to take a partial above these relative highs. Now looking at last week's rally, we do have a couple fair value gaps that we can retrace back into. We have a large one and a smaller one above. I definitely want to keep an eye on both of these going into next week. If you look to the left, there is a fair value gap that could act as inversion, so we could find support at the higher fair value gap, but price could very well dip into the lower fair value gap. If it does, I want to see price stay in the upper half of this fair value gap. I do not want to see it traded to the lower half. You can see in the upper half, we do have that weekly consequent encroachment as well as this inverted fair value gap. I want to see both of those support price and give price a big bounce towards my targets. So that's it for me this week. I think starting off the week, we could retrace lower, but overall, I am bullish. We do have FOMC this Wednesday afternoon, so be careful as we can have some unpredictable volatility. But if price should deviate from what I've outlined, I'll put a daily outlook video out to give you guys an update on my thoughts. But until next time, safe trading.